probably use your phone looking at it this way, right? And that's fine. But when you're taking video, everybody who takes video, unless you're specifically putting it on TikTok and you're taking it with the phone, does it in landscape. All the camcorders that we're going to use essentially do everything in landscape. They do that on purpose because screens are best seen sideways like this. Our vision is designed for that. If you could draw a cone of what our vision catches, it's an oval that comes out in front of you. So screens were always designed this way. When the first movie cameras and the first photographs were done, they were always developed in this wider aspect. 4 by 3. Right, so 4 wide, 3 tall. That's still pretty much the way it is. Although we can screw with form factor now, right? But this is definitely much wider. So we start with doing it in landscape. Oh, we also start with signing into our phone. And turn it sideways. Video. Okay. But also, y'all are holding it with just one hand. Why? Remember how expensive this was? How much did this thing cost you? Get those hands on there. You're going to be using camcorders, which have a similar way of holding them. They're wider, obviously, or deeper, I should say. They're deeper. But you really need to get both hands onto it. You want your hands on this device. Now that you've got it in landscape mode and you're holding it with both hands, you'll find your picture's much better. It's much more stable, and we can improve on that. There are tricks to utilizing cameras that make them more stable when you're dealing with a moving target, which I am being right now, aren't I? I am pacing. I'm doing it on purpose, and you've got to try and keep me in the frame, right? Like, you don't want me to just walk off the screen and keep talking at you in this loud voice that I'm using that projects to the back of the room that I'm doing on purpose, right? We need to get ourselves in a position where we can get this camera to be stable. Because if you're holding it in just one hand, or even with both hands, you're a dynamic system. You're not still. So the camera bounces. Now, we've all watched video on platforms like YouTube and TikTok, any of the streaming things especially, where people can upload content, Vimeo, etc. And when you see somebody who's amateurish with their video recorder, be it a phone or a camcorder, and they're holding it wrong and it's bouncy, you just are like, I'm getting seasick watching this, I can't watch this. We've all had that happen, every one of us. This is normal. So we want to remove some of that. We can do a lot with ourselves, our bodies, to enhance how this camera is getting its video. One of those is elbows in. Pretty simple. Bring those elbows in. Don't be up here. Don't be up here. Bring those elbows in. Much more natural position for it. Right? And now the camera's down here, but that's fine. I've got this great big viewport. I can see just fine. I don't have to have this in front of my face. I can have it here. I can get it here, hold it with both hands. Make sure, of course, my fingers aren't in front of the camera. I've got some fingers curled around. My case was much more useful when I had one because it had a lot of ridges on the sides, helped out a lot. It broke. It broke during our first class together just 2 days ago. I was playing with it in my pocket and I snapped it. So that helps too, have it be a little bit more user-friendly in shape and size. But getting those elbows in reduces a lot of the bounce. And I'm walking around, and it's already much, much less bouncy, even though I'm moving. Now also, you might notice up here it says, turn with core. As I'm walking back and forth, I'm seeing a lot of people just turn their hands, right? Or you're just kind of angling the camera a little bit, maybe turning your head. But that's not really what we want to do. We want to give the camera the support. So you really want to use your core muscles. When you're holding a camera, just any kind of camera, digital camera, your phone, a camcorder that I'm going to be giving you, you want to get both hands on it You want to put those elbows in, and you want to turn with your core when you're tracking something. You want to use longer muscles because the motion is much more smooth. We want smooth motion. We don't want our subjects to be bouncy. All of our phones, all of our camcorders, all of our digital devices that take video, yeah, they have anti-shake technology. That'll help take a little wiggle out of it. That's kind of impossible not to have some. But they can't really deal with when you're moving around. And sometimes, yeah, you're literally just moving with the camera. If I've got to track somebody, I'm turning with my core, right? I'm keeping my elbows in. I'm making sure that this is nice and smooth. Even though I'm moving, I'm sort of strafing, right? Nice and smooth. It's because I'm turning with my core. I'm getting to use the long muscles. You get the whole girdle around you. Next, this is one you probably already know, but maybe you're not doing it yet. You probably kind of know. Center 75. Look at these lenses on our phones. They're round, right? They're little bubbles. They have a fish-eyeing quality, which means that the edges of it are always bent. This curves out. That's an effect of having a lens that picks up light. So the best part of your camera is going to be the center 75%. And to that end, you have the ability, if I can get this just right, get my hand over it, there we go. You have the ability to turn on the grid lines. Every one of your phones in the settings has grid lines. You see them? See how it has the grid lines on there? Right? You want to turn those on. They don't show up in the video. Turn those on. Those are in your settings on your phone, on the camera. You can probably turn them on dynamically right now. That center square is the best one. That's where you're going to get the best video. That's where your subjects are not going to have a weird going on. Now the digital cameras we have, they do help. They actually do de-stretch it. They de-fisheye lens it. But that's probably even better. Just having an awareness of where the best part of the screen is. Mine's turned on to having 9 squares. I know some can do 16. Yeah, the more grid you can have, the better. You can tell where that best portion of your screen is by having that grid on. It really, really helps. With the camcorders that we're going to be using, they also have that grid. Well, some of them also have that grid, not all of them. So you do have to kind of approximate it. But understand that that center portion of a screen, that's where the good stuff is. That's where it's most true. Okay, that's number 4. Number 5, become the tripod. We are dynamic beings. It is essentially impossible for us to not bounce. You know, you're just like a bunch of pieces of coral held together with rubber bands inside of a sack, a plastic sack full of water. In a very mechanical sense, that's all we are. That thing, not very rigid. It's not very good for holding a camera still. We have tricks that help us, but nothing quite as good as a nice old tripod. But those aren't always available. But you can become them. Everybody, get up against the wall. Get up against the wall. Right? I can get in the doorway. That's even better.
Oh, so that one.
Get up against the wall. You're going to create a tripod with your body. 3 points of contact.
Where you going, bro?
So, if I'm up against the wall with my back, I put my shoulder blades into it. I put 1 foot forward and 1 foot up against the wall. I am now pushing my weight into the wall, which means that I don't have to dynamically hold that. All of a sudden, this becomes really, really stable. It's even more so if you can do this into a doorway, that is if you have to stand someplace. Because I can get myself in here, wedge my shoulder in, 1 foot up against the door plate, the other one out, right? I can get really good, stable 3 points of contact. I am a tripod. What if you can't get up against something? Oh, crap. I'm out in the middle of the football pitch and I'm just recording for my friends while they run drills. Okay? We can do something about that. It looks a little doofy, but it works. And that's what's important, right? Anybody do yoga? You know, horse stance? Seriously. Because you are using the long muscles, because if you lock your knees, you bounce. You can't help it. Just your heartbeat alone will make you vibrate. But if you can use the longer muscles, your feet shoulder width apart, bend at the knee, sit back a little bit, proper posture. This takes a lot of your bounciness out. You kind of will do this just because your breath. But this in a slow motion is better than locking my knees and not my bones. And of course, finally, maybe you've used this in your lectures, and I really support doing it. I know some teachers don't like it, but you know what? You're paying Peter. Get back to your desk. Become a tripod at your desk. Right? Here we go. I'm sitting. I scooch way, way up. Right up against the desk. Elbow, elbow. Grab camera. Right? If the teacher walks around, I can kind of angle my whole body to track. But I've got my sternum up